Anthem is one of the strangest games on the market. It's strange in that if you saw a trailer or looked at a moment of the gameplay, you'd probably be really interested. It boasts great visuals and really cool looking flight mechanics. But once you look at these critic reviews, you'd be surprised to see that they only gave it a 60. You see, when it got announced, I was never on board with it. I was looking forward to playing it, but I didn't think it would be that great. Myself and many others assumed it would just be BioWare's take on Destiny, so it would be fun but flawed. Well, having played it, I can say that I am so very wrong. It is not just BioWare's take on Destiny. It is without a doubt one of the most incompetently designed games I have ever played. It is a lifeless, soulless, worthless, conniption-inducing waste of time. I hate this game with every fiber of my being, and as per all my other reviews, I will try my hardest to be calm and level-headed, but this game is one of the worst excuses for entertainment I have ever been alive to witness. Best believe I have very detailed and thought out reasons for why I hate this game, so stick around. So the story of Anthem is about as plain as it gets. There is some incredible raw power that some bad guy wants to obtain and you have to stop him. Basically it's Destiny 2's story, except Destiny 2's story was already super generic. So if Destiny was Walmart brand storytelling, Anthem is like Dollar Tree brand storytelling. There are no real stakes, there is weak lore, there are story arcs that just phase in and out and never get resolved. There are characters who are introduced for like one mission and then kind of forgot about for the rest of the game. It's pretty bad. I'm also pretty sure that you only see the main villain like 4 times total. Once in the beginning, like 2 more times in a cutscene, and then once in the final boss fight. He is so forgettable that I don't actually remember his name. The other characters in the game range from decent to annoying and, well, sorry, let me rephrase that. The other characters range from Owen to why even bother adding these other dipshits into the game? And the writing certainly doesn't help. It's so bland and aimless that I genuinely wonder if anyone really tried when writing this. I think this is also the first game where I eventually started to skip a lot of the cutscenes because they were just so boring and painful to watch. And I didn't even intend to skip them at first, but a game-breaking bug around the midway point forced me to skip some, and then I just didn't really look back after that. If you watched my gameplay video, you would know that I encountered a bug where it wouldn't count the mission that I just completed, but it wouldn't let me replay it either. And the big issue with this was that the game didn't show me the cutscenes. It didn't count the mission, and I didn't see the cutscenes, and the cutscenes were required to be watched in order for the game to let me progress any further. So after 5 restarts, 20 minutes of searching online, I found out that I had to do every single other mission available to me, and then it would pop back up for me to redo it again. Now this is already bad enough, but it turns out if you watch the cutscenes when replaying the mission, it can apparently mess something else up, because you were already supposed to have seen them or something. So people online said the safest bet was to just skip all the cutscenes so you didn't have to run the risk of getting everything else messed up again. Now this was super obnoxious at the time, but looking back I think the game was just trying to save me from itself. They also want you to pay attention to the dialogue being said, while there was like 30 different explosions going off on your screen at once. Now for those who are about to say, well, this game isn't about story, it's about the gameplay and the world. Well, yes, but actually no. I'll get to gameplay in a bit, but let's talk about the world for now. Anthem has one of the worst worlds I have ever seen in an open world game, and I'm fairly confident that it has the worst hub world I've ever seen. For starters, the open world just looks like a bunch of copy and pasted environments, and it's almost impossible to discern one section from the next. It all blends together, it all looks the same, it all has the same like 3 different landmark types. There are no interesting things to see or explore, no NPCs in the world, no real locations, no side missions out there, and the enemy variety is pretty laughable. See, there are like 3 main enemy groups, and they all have incredibly generic names. We have the Scars, which I feel like I've heard before. We have the Dominion, which I'm almost certain I've heard before. And we have the Scorpions, with Scorpion spelled with a K instead of a C. So that one's pretty unique. And then there are the 2 embarrassing boss types, the Ursics, which just sounds like Ursa with an X added on to the end. And Ursa is Latin for bear, and yep, it's a bear. Go figure, it is a bear. Who would have guessed it? Because we can't take more than 30 seconds when coming up with names for things in our game. The other boss type are Titans, which we've all heard before. You will fight these guys around 5 times throughout the game until you get to the final mission, where you fight another Titan. Yay! And these assholes don't even have different attacks either. They're all the same. They don't even look different. They couldn't even add a different color to them. You couldn't even fight Titan the Blue, Titan the Red, Mr. Black Titan, Mr. White Titan. Nothing. It's just the same exact model copy, pasted, reused over and over and over again. But to be fair, they do have this really annoying damage range on their attacks though.
Yes. What? How did that hit me?
Now, before I move on, let's talk about the hub world, Fort Tarsus. This is the saddest excuse for a hub world I've ever seen. I'm not joking when I say that 90% of the NPCs here do not utter a single word. They just stand there in silence. But in some horrible attempt to make the world feel alive, I guess, the designers added these conversation animations to everyone. So these characters are literally standing here, acting like they are talking, moving their mouth like they are talking, moving their arms like they're having a conversation and pointing to things, but no sound is coming out. In fact, there is no sound coming out of anywhere, because it seems like they forgot to add sound effects. They didn't even add music. They couldn't even add music to the hub world.
I want everyone to be quiet. Don't say anything. I just want to record the sound. Do you see all these characters and no sound? It's like they just turned off the sound for this entire area.
But don't worry, there are a few characters you can go and interact with, and when you do, you are greeted by the most pointless dialogue system ever conceived. Remember in the trailer where they said, your choices would have consequences, or something like that?
This is your chance to develop a richly personal narrative, where your choices have consequences.
They do not. 100% straight lie, they do not at all. I played the game, I finished the game, I didn't make a single choice while finishing the game.
No matter what you pick, there is the same outcome. And most of the time, your options are along the lines of yes or yes, but in blue. These conversations are so meaningless that I seriously wonder why they even bothered. Now, I know they 100% added a dialogue system into the game because they are BioWare and they have a history of dialogue-based games, so they felt obligated to. But when it's this terrible, someone along the way should have just said, nah, this ain't it, and just scrapped NPC conversations altogether. It took them 6 years, 6 whole years, and this was the story, world, and characters they came up with. It's pathetic. There is not a single redeeming quality on the story side of things. But who cares about all that? It's a looter shooter. It's about the gameplay and the grind. Well, the core gameplay is actually pretty good, I'm not gonna lie. The flight mechanics are really cool and the shooting is solid enough. The different abilities that each character has are also really cool, even if they are completely broken.
No, I haven't taken damage!
How?
I don't know!
Dude, I'm behind cover taking damage.
Dude, I haven't gotten hit just by doing this. This is so dumb. This is so OP. At least, like, maybe not late game, but early game, oh my god.
But unfortunately, these core mechanics mean little to nothing when every mission is just so terrible. A lot of them just have you standing in a circle, capturing the point while shooting waves of the same enemies over and over. And the AI is single-player AI, meaning that they only ever focus on one target. So all you really have to do for a lot of these bigger enemies is just float in the air and light them up as the giant bear attacks the same guy over and over. And like I said before, they've reused the same enemies over and over and over and over, and the same mission structure, so every fight feels exactly like the last.
Together, you'll confront countless enemies.
I can count, there's about 5.
There are never any interesting scenarios or interesting enemy attack patterns or anything. They even reuse the same courtyard for 4 different battles. Yes, 4 different fights take place in the exact same courtyard. You fight to get into the palace, then they replay the last stand of you fighting to get out, and then later in the game, you go back and you fight your way in, and then fight your way out in the same exact courtyard. And the final mission literally has you doing the same basic task that you've done all game, standing in the damn circle.
Oh my god, the final mission still has a stand in the circle mission. You like my gameplay right now? You like my sweet gameplay on the final mission? You like my sweet gameplay on the final mission?
And the enemy spawning is terrible. Half the time, they spawn out of nowhere right next to you. The other half, they all spawn in one section, so it's just incredibly easy to spawn camp them. And all the creatures can't climb up walls or anything either, so every time you're fighting any of the scorpions or other creatures, just sit on a high ledge or float in the air and you're fine. It is incredibly easy. And this was on hard difficulty. All of this was on hard difficulty.
Dude, look at this mission design. They said, let's make you stand here, but let's spawn all the enemies at the bottom.
And if all these missions weren't boring enough, there is literally a mission where they halt your progress and give you a bunch of meaningless tasks you are forced to complete before you can continue. Stuff like complete 5 world events, open 15 chests. The thing is, some of these tasks take forever because they decided to not mark the world events on the map and they barely put any chests in the world. I'm not joking when I say it took my friend and I over 2 hours to complete all these challenges because we just could not find any chests. These dickhead developers decided that each chest could only be opened by one person in the world. One. Meaning that if you and your friend both find a chest, only one of you can open it. So basically, if you're playing with a friend, you need to find 30 chests, 15 for each of you, so you both can continue. And most of the time, when you find a chest, if you find a chest, it's already been opened by some random ass person playing in the same game world as you.
This treasure chest's already been opened. Dude, they really have these challenges that you need to do, but if someone else in the world has already gotten to it, you're screwed. You can't do anything about it. What a terrible design.
But as bad as that is, it can't come close to the worst part of the game, the loot. This game is a looter shooter with absolutely zero worthwhile loot. For starters, there are only like 2 different weapons per class. Like, 2 rifles, 2 LMGs, 2 shotguns, 2 snipers, 2 pistols, only like 2 of them. Now, I don't know if 2 is the exact number, but I'm fairly certain it's not above 3. So for a large part of the game, you're going to be getting the exact same weapons over and over and over and over with nothing but slight damage increases and terrible bonus stats like 5% more sniper ammo, 10% more gear damage, and these stats aren't even unique to the guns. They're just completely randomized, meaning that no gun is special. And even when you get into the masterclass level weapons, they're not special either, because they are literally the same gun models reused. Every single gun in the game looks exactly the same. They all have this really rectangular, blocky, fat frame to them, and they are impossible to tell apart. I cannot believe how little effort was put into the main part of this game, especially since the only loot you get are guns and small ability upgrades. You don't even get new armor pieces other than the cosmetic changes you have to buy in the store, and there are barely any of that because they stripped customization way down. See, you guys remember in their video where they showed off all the customization options?
The parts, so we can go ahead and start equipping pieces of gear. So, for example, put on the
that's not in the game.
Arms.
That's not in the game.
Go through and pick the helmet, and the player can pick which ones they want.
No, you can't. You cannot pick it. You cannot pick that because it's not in the game. You can buy it if you want. You can't pick it, asshole. Now, this is what's in the actual game. One option. And one other option because I have the deluxe edition. Now, please don't look at me like that. No, I didn't buy the deluxe edition. I bought the $15 subscription to their service, so I could only pay $15 for this piece of shit. But it came with the deluxe edition when you did that, so they gave me 1 extra armor piece. Basically, if you just buy the base game, you have 1 armor piece. Nothing else to customize. Nothing else. What they showed is a straight up lie.
They couldn't even copy Destiny correctly. They wasted perfectly good mechanics on a piss-poor gameplay cycle, and they lied to us about what's actually in the game.
Okay, so I was so angry with everything else that I forgot to even mention this in the rest of the review, but all this is towards nothing, because the end game is just nothing. There's nothing there. There's 3 strongholds, one of which is just a repeated mission from the other game, and the other strongholds are like, they're better by default just because there's more in them than just the normal missions, but they're not great. At
this point, I'm so over this worthless game that I'm just gonna list the rest of the issues. I don't even feel like describing them, okay? So, I hate the fact that there is toggle sprint and no option to turn it off. The fact that you have to completely restart your game if you want to change your graphics settings. The fact that this game has long-ass loading times. The fact that there are loading screens for everything you do. The fact that there are preloading loading screens that load you into another loading screen. The fact that there are lots of crashes and server disconnects. The fact that there are several instances where your sound completely cuts out. The fact that the fact that the devs banned someone for using a farming exploit in a PvE game. The fact that this doesn't happen in the game. The fact that this doesn't happen in the game. The fact that this trailer looks nothing like the game. The fact that they completely, fundamentally redesigned Fort Tartar Sauce from whatever they show in the demo. The fact that you can't view your inventory while out in the world. The fact that this game is literally hard crashing people's PS4s and running the risk of completely bricking their console. The fact that my friend got locked out of part of the final mission. The fact that the final boss ends before his health even gets below 1/3. The fact that until they fixed it, the level 1 gun did more damage than any Masterwork gun in the game because the devs went donut when adding weapon scaling. The fact that the game forced my friend and I to replay multiple missions because this game is donut! I hate this game more than anything. Whatever you do, stay far away from this. Don't buy into the whole live service thing. It's just an excuse to sell you an unfinished product at launch. 6 years and they couldn't figure out how to design more than one mission. 6 years and they couldn't come up with a better name for anything. 6 years and they couldn't write a compelling story. 6 years and they couldn't add sound effects or music to Fort Tater Tot. 6 years and they couldn't design more than one style of weapon. 6 years of dev time and the final mission has the exact same gameplay as the first few missions. It's shameful. There just had to be something behind the scenes that went seriously wrong with this game's development cycle, because this thing is an absolute mess of terrible half-baked ideas. My only guess is that somewhere along the 6-year cycle, probably around year 3, they scrapped their initial idea and then completely remade everything in the last 2 or 3 years. Because as it stands, this is an absolutely laughable excuse for a game.